Welcome to another episode of Reflections of a CEO. Today, I take you back to 2016 when I almost decided to close Jacked. Yes, I almost decided to close my business. I haven't told this story to many people, and I figured, hey, let me share this story and let you in on a little behind the scenes action of when I actually almost closed the business. All right, I hope you guys enjoy. You know, at the time, I wish I would have recorded it live, so at the time I could document all that, but hey, didn't start really documenting till later, so you know, now I'm making up for that time. But I wanted to share that story with you because I shared it with someone else, another entrepreneur the other week, because they were talking to me. You know, if you're an entrepreneur, you're an agency owner listening to this, you might have hard times. Things, you know, you're losing customers, people are churning, you're like, damn, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. This is really hard. And sometimes in those moments, I like to share stories with people to say, hey, look, I understand what you're saying, and not just because like, okay, that, you know, that sucks. It's like, no, I've been there in a very, very similar situation, and sometimes this helps other people. So I figured, hey, instead of just doing it, you know, one-on-one with people, let me record that story just so you have some context. So, you know, maybe you've been going through some hard times, you're losing clients, whatever it is, you know, or maybe you're fine right now, but you bookmark this for the times when you do, because inevitably you're going to run into hard patches when you're running an agency or any business for that matter. So take you back, it was like 2016. There was a period of time where, you know, we had just come off a really good year, right? Had just done 2 million. So this would have been actually at the end of 2015, we did 2 million. So it was going into 2016, right? I'm feeling good. You know, I start, you know, I was like, okay, we're going to grow. We're going to hit a target of 4 million, right? In 2017, or in 2016. And we definitely did not do that. We actually went back from 2 million, and we did less than 2 million the fall, you know, that year. And so it was a really hard year for me. And this is what, there was a series of events that kind of unfolded that almost broke me in the sense of made me almost stop doing this. So what started happening was there was a combination of two things that really killed me. One, people started leaving the company. A lot of employees, one by one, you know, in a few month, you know, period, all started leaving. It started with one, and then another, and then another. And so what had happened was we were down to, you know, we were like 13, 15 people, and then we were down to, I think, 5 or 6. Yeah, maybe it was 6 people, right? So team more than cut in half, right? At the same time, we're losing a bunch of clients. Client leaves, client leaves, client leaves. And I was in a dry spell. I couldn't close any business. Leads weren't there, I wasn't closing. So you had this like perfect storm of employees leaving, clients not signing, and there was actually a period of time, right, where we were actually down to 1 client, right? We had five people plus me, and we were down to 1 client, one big client, and talk about customer concentration, all the things that you've heard me talk about in the past if you've been following me that you don't want to do. Have customer concentration, right? Have a poor sales pipeline, sales activity, all of these things, right? This was in 2016, so 3 years ago, like, those are like, yep, well, that was me, right? It was a perfect case of what not to do, essentially, right? And this was a really, really tough time for me. You know, where to go with this story. So one, also, by the way, funny enough, it was actually like a blessing in disguise. And I'll get to that, some of the things that were happening, but let me talk through kind of what I was feeling in the moment. You know, this was like, I was just feeling awful, right? Like we were building this company, people start leaving. I took it very personally that people were leaving. Like, wow, I'm not a good leader. I'm not there's something wrong with me. All these stories I was telling myself. So I was really beating myself up that people were leaving. And then I was also beating myself up that we were not closing business. And then I was scared that everyone was going to leave once they see, wow, we have one customer who's carrying the entire business, is everyone just going to leave? And I even asked people at that moment, I asked if look, if you want out, I don't blame you, right? Like we're down to the bottom, right? So it was basically like I was starting at ground zero again, in 2016, right, from the floor, right? No. Virtually no revenue, no customers, no nothing, and that's where we were. I thought long and hard about it. I was in a deep depression then, right? Drinking a lot every night to just numb myself, so I didn't have to think about it. And then also just days I would go by and I wouldn't even go into the office. Sit at home on the couch. People would think I was working. I wasn't. Couldn't show my face to the team at times. It was really hard. Or when I was present with the team, I just felt sick. It was a really hard time for me, and I didn't know really how to control my emotions at the time, or handle them or deal with them. And so for the team, I tried to just keep on a straight face, like everything was fine. But internally, I was like, fuck, like this is a mess. What am I gonna do? Should I just close the business and walk away? Should I do something else? Do I even want to do this? And it really made me think, like, why, I was miserable. I was like, why am I even doing this? Do I want to do this? What is my purpose? And it was really, really hard. And, it took me, it was a dark couple months there. And, it finally came to the point where I was like, okay, I do want to do this. If I was to do anything else and start anything over, if I shut this down, what am I going to do? And my answer kept being, I'm going to do this, right? So I was like, okay, so I want to do this. And it was kind of a blessing in disguise, because once I made that decision, okay, no, like I'm committed, I'm going to do this. Then I said, okay, but what has to be true such that I want to keep doing this for the next few years? And so I was like, okay, I started kind of listing out my changes and non-negotiables for me, right? I had to wake up, loving every day. I wanted to build a really good team and culture, and I wanted to change the way the entire team worked together. I wanted to have a different type of customer. I wanted to do a different type of work. I wanted to so it was kind of a blessing in disguise, because the way we were running the business was not actually sustainable. And this was actually, and I didn't realize this was a sign saying, hey guys, like, look, your business is not sustainable. Like, it's not working. And, instead of me changing it, I was forced to change. So it was a nature's way, the business world's way of telling me, like, this shit is not working. You have to change it. And I couldn't see that at the time. Like, I just thought, I was like, wow, this is miserable. But in hindsight, it's like, that's actually what was happening, right? The business is not sustainable. So it was the best thing. Like, it had to break in order to get better. Right? So like this is like a common thing with growth, is like things break and then you grow again, or you die, right? And I chose to grow, right? And take it as a learning experience. So it was great because actually, funny enough, right, our sales was drying up. At the same time, everyone was leaving. I kid you not, like there was also a point where we were about to have to lay off a couple people because we just didn't have to work. And then those people actually left. So like, we already lost a few people. Then a couple more people left, like right at the time when I was like, oh, man, I'm gonna have to lay off people. I never laid off anyone in my life until that point. I was very proud of that I always made sure people had jobs. They ended up also leaving at the same time. So it was this crazy thing of like, didn't have to lay anyone off, lost these people, which sucked, but also was great because then it made us very lean. And we only had enough business for those people remaining. So we got through this point in time. And at the same time, by the way, there was at this time we were doing work for cash, but we were also doing it was a mix of a cash plus equity deal. So we weren't making as much cash. Thankfully that company is actually doing extremely well, that we took equity in. I won't share the name at this time of it. but it's still alive and kicking, and one of our best performing companies, and so it could actually be worth a lot of money in the future. But it allowed me to reset. So it was miserable though, like, you know, depression, anxiety, stress levels like crazy, not eating well, not sleeping well, like you name it, drinking like crazy, like it was really bad. And in that moment is when I decided, like, I have to change my life. I have to change this business. Otherwise, like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Like, I was on a not good spiral. So you know, shit happens. And those kind of moments define you, right? Like I could have stopped it, right? I thought to myself, hey, I'll stop, and but I decided not to, and I decided to rebuild in a different way. And you know, fast forward 3 years later, and we're in a much different position, and you know, business is in a different spot. I'm in a different spot. Literally, actually, I'm in Miami. If you're watching me on video, you know, I was in New York at the time, but it's hard. You know, like it can be really hard during those moments, and you know, I just want to share that experience, you know, with other entrepreneurs to say, like, look, it's I've been through shit, other people have been through shit, and you're not alone in that sense, right? And you can get through it, right? Like, I think looking at it like destruction, like breaking things, when things break, it's actually a healthy kind of thing. It means that it was never gonna, you're like, oh man, if it didn't break, we would have been here. No, you wouldn't, because that's what happens, you know, when things break, it's because it's not working and it needs to evolve and change. So look at it, when something's breaking, actually look at it like a positive, right? It may be really hard to do, right? But that's where my biggest learning and lessons came from, was when shit was breaking, right? In that moment, that's when I decided to change the way I was structuring the team, the way I handled, you know, built my culture, the way I wanted to live my life, the type of customers we work with. I was able to rebuild it actually like virtually from the ground up, except with one big customer, right? But I was essentially starting over, and I love that, right? I was essentially starting over, but with 3 to 4 years of experience. You know, I started July of 2012. This was 2016, so maybe it was 4 years later. You know, and so I had 4 years of experience, and then was applying it, right, to the last like 3 years. So look at when things are breaking, look at it like a time of growth, or an opportunity rather. You know, when things break, it means that they're not working, and there's a change. So that's now my mindset. By the way, whenever anything breaks, I'm like, okay, cool, it didn't work. It's broken. That's a sign that I need to change something. It wasn't working, and I love it, right? I look at it like a great opportunity. I don't get mad or anything about it, and you know, I also know at this point, like, that I can kind of get through. I've been through a lot of stuff like that, a couple business partnership breakups, lawsuits, like there's a lot. Like I have I'm battle tested, so to speak, over the last 7 years, and I'm just getting started, right? I'm so glad, you know, for those of you that don't know, I'm 29 now. I've had a lot of experiences, right? I've been running the agency for seven years. I guess I started when I was 22. A lot of experiences there, and you know, you learn from all of them, and you know, it's normal to be going through stuff, right? Don't beat yourself up. That's what I would have like told myself back then. Hey, be gentle on yourself. You're going through things. Don't tie what is happening to your personal identity. That was a really hard one for me, right? It's like excuse me. I was tying that, like thinking I wasn't good enough. I wasn't good enough, and people don't like me, and I took everything very personally, right? When really it was just, you know, me as a leader. I mean, me as a CEO. I wasn't doing a great job. That's the truth. But it wasn't Anthony wasn't good. It's, you know, the CEO wasn't good, right? So that's a little trick I use now. Is like I don't tie my identity to the business. I'm just like, okay, I'm here. I'm the CEO. That's it. Or I'm the, you know, advisor. Or I'm the, you know, whatever it is. Like it's not Anthony the founder, or, you know, I don't even like calling myself the founder anymore. I'm like Anthony the CEO. Right? That way I'm holding a position. It's not my personal identity, right? And once I started doing that, it made it much easier, right? I was just there in a role to solve a problem, If it doesn't go as well, I'm still a good person. I'm still great. My personal identity isn't damaged, but it took me years to figure that out, by the way, and really learn that. And even now I still struggle with it a bit. But yeah, anyways, I'm not going to drag on the story more. Obviously, like, I'm trying to condense months and months of thoughts into this, but I think this got the point across. So if you're going through some stuff, know that it's normal. Things are breaking. That's okay. Look at it like an opportunity, for growth, and you're not alone, right? Other entrepreneurs are there, and don't be scared to reach out to other people, because the reality is, if you think you're alone and it's, man, I can't believe all this stuff, like, literally look at this conversation, that we're having right now. I've gone through stuff, and I'm serious. Like, if you're really going through stuff and you're like, man, all this is happening, reach out to me, message me on Twitter. Like, I respond, I talk to people. If you're running an agency, I encourage you to join our agency community. Like, that's what, part of it, is there for, is like, okay, you have a group of people around you, right? Servicebasedbusinesses.com. That's how you can find it if you want to check it out. But yeah, it's, you're not alone, and reach out to other people and other entrepreneurs who have been there. I love helping other entrepreneurs, because you're like, you've been there and you don't want other people to go through it, or at least don't go through it alone, right? So don't be scared to reach out to other people, not just me, other entrepreneurs. You'll be pleasantly surprised, I think, because if you've been an entrepreneur, you've gone through shit like this. Anyone who tells you they haven't, it's not the exact scenario, but like anyone who says they haven't like run up against something like really hard times where it's like really difficult and you have no one to turn to, is probably lying to you, because it's like part of it. Like, it's part of entrepreneurship. So it's better to reach out to people, because they won't look at you in a negative way. I used to think that. I was like, well, if I reach out to people, they'll like look down upon me or think less of me because they're so successful. And the reality is, like, the more I've grown and the more I've met successful people, and the more I've succeeded, it's like, what you find out is everyone is going through stuff, right? And as an entrepreneur and other entrepreneurs will feel for that, and you might be surprised at the reaction. So I encourage you to reach out to people if you're going through it, and really learn from those experiences when it's seems like it's super negative. So anyways, I hope this story has helped, you guys. Sometimes I've heard the term, sometimes they say it's just therapeutic listening to stuff like this, or maybe you can forward it to a friend who's going through some stuff, but no, you're not alone. And I'm not perfect, things happen, but I've learned and grown from those experiences, and they've made me who I am today. And so I'll end on that note. I really, really thank you for your time and listening in. I hope this has helped, or maybe it will help someone else. And please, if you haven't subscribe on either Anchor or YouTube to get more podcast episodes if you've enjoyed this one, or listen in, or rather follow me on Twitter. That's where I'm really active these days, at Anthony Tumbiolo. And yeah, reach out, any questions. If you ever want me to do a podcast about a certain topic, just let me know. Seriously, I'm looking for new topics. I have a whole backlog, but I would love to just answer people's questions. So yeah, thanks again for joining another episode of Reflections of a CEO, and I hope to see you all next time. Thanks. Bye.